All right, we are live, Washington WREIA, February 2024. Thanks so much for joining us online this evening. I'll give everyone a chance to kind of get on board here. As you come on board, if you want to say hello to the group, feel free to do that. I can see some of your comments here. Any questions you might have as we go through tonight's presentation, feel free to go ahead and put those up, and we'll be happy to try to answer those. If I can't answer something on tonight's show, certainly I will follow up with you at a later time. So feel free to ask questions. This is what Washington WREIA is all about. For those of you that are new to our streaming here, we've been doing this every single month, 2 times a month for many years, and then 1 time a month. I think we're on our 21st or 22nd year. We've been certainly pretty loyal to this group and this network, and it's been great. Dominic, great. Thank you for coming on. Realtor X. What a great day to be in this meeting. Realtor X. Does Realtor X have a name, or are we just going to be guessing here throughout the day? Not sure why today is a great day for a meeting, but it was a beautiful day today. So again, thanks for joining us. As I said, as you come on board tonight, feel free to say hello. It's always good to have some interaction whenever we do these things. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a different subject. We're kind of going to backdoor a few things, meaning we're going to be talking about, is it a good time to buy a house? And those of you that have been following us, been part of this network, been part of this group, you know that our primary focus has always been on investment real estate, and that's going to continue. We're always going to be talking about real estate from an investor's point of view, and we're going to use tonight's subject to morph into that discussion as we go along. Certainly going to be talking about from an investment standpoint, is it a good time to buy a rental property? Is it a good time to buy a fix and flip? Is it a good time to wholesale real estate? Is it a good time to look maybe for some smaller commercial property that we can take advantage of now? So we're going to be certainly talking about that. But we also want to just do an overall question of, is it a good time to buy a house? We have many folks in our network that have been with us for many, many years. And I get this question quite a bit. Is it a good time? And if you search the internet and you talk to realtors, you talk to lenders, you talk to people in the industry, you're going to get so many differing views whether or not right now is a good time to buy a house. So we're going to go through a few of those ideas. We're going to go through a few checklists for those of you that do not own a house. And we're going to come up hopefully with an answer at the end of this meeting. An answer certainly that's not across the board for everybody, but hopefully you'll get enough information tonight to decide whether or not it's a good time to buy a house. And we can always count on Russell to be our man of the truth, if you will. Terrible time. We are in a nationwide bubble. Terrible time. We're in a nationwide bubble. Man, if we listen to Russell, I love talking to Russell because he's actively involved in the business, and he does a lot of reading, and he's out certainly on the street. But he always has. If I listened to Russell, I think I'd be bankrupt and probably homeless because I'd be afraid to wake up in the morning and get out of bed. But we do appreciate his perspective. And Russell, as always, feel free to chime in to argue with me or against me, I guess is the word. So we'll be happy to have him on board tonight. Magdalene Robinson, always a faithful listener. Thank you so much. Hope everything's going okay in your world. Well, it's a great time of year, right? We're getting through the month of February. Those of you that know that February is probably my least favorite month of the year. Don't know why, just always kind of dark and cold and cloudy and overcast, and just kind of seems like one of those months in my life that always kind of drags along. But this winter's been great. We haven't had, although I love snow. I love snow to ski on. I love to go to snow. I'm not crazy about having a long, cold snow winters. I love a couple snowstorms a year, but I like them to come in, drop the snow, walk around, see how pretty it is, and then the next day or two it goes away. And this winter and the past few winters certainly have been really mild. So we're almost through my least favorite month, and we come on to my favorite month of the year, and that is the month of March, March Madness. Those of you know me, I'm a big basketball fan, and a few of you are cheating on it tonight because the WCAC, Washington Catholic basketball conference, football, basketball, all the different sports, local high schools, Gonzaga, DeMath, the St. John's, Paul VI, O'Connell, a bunch of other schools are in the midst of basketball playoffs. And I know some of you are attending those games tonight. They're going on right now. and you're missing out on watching WREIA tonight. But I don't blame you. That's a great place to be. I spent yesterday afternoon and evening over at American University watching some great high school basketball. So I love basketball, and I can't wait for March Madness and all the colleges that go on. So it will be great. It'll be a great time of year. So anyways, let's get to our subject tonight. Is it a good time to buy? Now, you heard Russell say it's a terrible time. And, I'm not going to be able to give you a yes or no on this. I'm just here to give you some ideas and some things to consider if you are thinking about buying a house in the next X amount of months. And again, we're going to morph this discussion, this conversation, certainly into more of an investor slant. We'll be talking about that as we go. As I prepare for these meetings, I take down a lot of notes, try to do a little bit of reading. And tonight I looked at my notes. I had like 25 pages here, 25 pages of notes. And obviously I can't get through it all tonight. So I'm going to kind of go rapid fire. Again, feel free to chime in. Love the comments. That keeps the conversation flowing. Sometimes it's difficult to just be here in the office speaking into the computer without any kind of feedback, facial expressions. Can't ask you to raise your hands. Can't do a lot of things that I normally would do in person. But let's talk about this. First of all, I'm going to throw out a question, give you a minute or two to answer this. Fannie Mae has a sentiment index. I didn't even know they had a sentiment index, but after doing a little research, they have a sentiment index. And in February of this year, 2024, they ask consumers if it's a good time or bad time to buy a house. So what percentage of consumers, I'm guessing potential home buyers, what percentage of them feel like it is a bad time to buy a house? And Russell, maybe you could answer this. What would be your guess? Out of 100 people, how many people said, no, it is not a good time to buy a house. It is a bad time to buy a house. This is just a recent stat. So what do you think that percentage is of people out there in their living rooms thinking that it's a bad time to buy a house? What would be your guess? Give everyone a second or two. Doom, doom, doom. Anybody? Dominic, you got a guess? No wrong answers here. Everybody's a little shy. Russell, 60%. Anybody else? 60% going once. Anybody else? Everyone else kind of zoned out already. Lost you already. All right. Well, Russell's guess of 60% is actually low. If you can believe it. That's actually very low. Michelle's got 50, Max 80. Well, Max, you're the big winner. You get the free prize tonight at Washington WREIA. According to Fannie Mae Sentiment Index, 83%. 83%. Vanessa 45%. Aaron 75%. So you all kind of in the range. Magdalene 40%. 83% of people say it's a bad time right now to buy a house. So that's telling, right? That does not bode good news for the real estate industry when 83 out of 100 people out there are saying no, it's not a good time to buy a house. And why is that? And that's why we're going to be talking about tonight. So ask yourself this question. You're out there, you're thinking, man, I'm ready to buy a house. What is generally, when you're ready, what's the first thing most people do? Anybody have a guess? As you're thinking about that, I'll read. Russell's National Realtors also have stated that they expect a real estate recession for upcoming spring market. Okay, we'll talk about that. So when people are getting ready to buy a house, what's generally the first thing they do? Right? What do you do when you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to buy a house, or I'm thinking about buying a house? What should most people do? Most people hop on their computer, right? And they start scrolling around. They go to online platforms, things like Zillow, things like Redfin, all the big real estate brokerage sites, and they start looking around. Right? Exactly. Pull credit report. But the first thing most people do is they start looking at houses. They say, yeah, that's kind of fun. And I think people do that as just a way to entertain themselves. I know a lot of people that are constantly looking at real estate that have nothing to do with real estate. They're looking in their neighborhood. They're looking on their zip codes. They're looking at their favorite vacation spot, maybe like Hilton Head, or like to ski in Colorado, or they might go down to Florida, and they're on Zillow late at night kind of looking at houses. But a lot of people that are starting out look, online, look at houses. Now, the old days, the first thing they would do is they would find a realtor. But with all the information out there now, with all the access to pictures and data and neighborhood statistics as far as crime and transportation and shopping, most people, first thing they do, obviously, is go online. Now, what should you do? Some of you threw out a few things. If I was looking for a house, first thing you do, certainly you can go online and look. But I think the most important question to ask yourself before you even start looking is a very easy, basic question is, how much property can I afford? What can I afford? And you'd be amazed and surprised, I think, about really the lack of knowledge people have on what they can afford. Okay. They really don't know. They kind of know what they make. They might say, oh, I make $70,000 a year. Not quite sure about, uh, my debt and how much I owe and so forth. But the first thing you got to find out is how much you can afford. So where's the easiest place to go for that? And that's where we start talking about building our team. This is when we start talking about the first thing we should do is build that team, build those people around us that can help us through this process, that know more than we do, that live this day in, day out, that can help us achieve whatever we're trying to go after. So if you're thinking about buying a house, if you don't know if it's a good time or not, that's irrelevant. You're thinking about buying one. Build your team. And the first two people I believe that should be on that team is a good lender. Okay. Someone that can help you gather your documents and gather your financials and put your debts together and figure out exactly how much you can afford. They will go ahead and pull that credit report. I saw someone said earlier to pull your credit report. Okay. We got some comments here. We'll come back to that. And that's good conversation, guys. But the first thing they'll do is they'll sit down with you and figure out how much money you have coming in, how much money you have going out. And based on that, and based on your credit, they're going to go ahead and say, Jimmy and Sally, or Sally and Mary, you can afford $350,000. Okay. You have the down payment together. You have your documents ready. This is what you can afford on a monthly basis. Now, something that you can do on your own if you want, if you're thinking about buying a house, someone just mentioned it earlier in this conversation, is pull your credit report. We can all pull our credit reports. The place I go to get a free credit report is basically called annualcreditreport.com. You might want to write that down. Annualcreditreport.com. That will pull your credit from the 3 largest credit agencies, and you can get that relatively quickly. If you call them, about 15 days. If you go online, you can get it very, very quickly. And that will give you an idea of exactly what your credit is. And your loan officer, your lender, can help you interpret that and give you an idea based on your credit, based on your income, based on your debts. This is how much house I can afford. And folks, that's what I would tell everyone. I would tell that to someone that might own 6 rental properties and is thinking about selling their home and buying their next home. How much exactly can you afford based on all of your financials, your kind of your snapshot of your financial life? What can you reasonably afford with the money coming in and the money going out? And the second thing I would do is I'd find a realtor. Don't discount realtors, even though you can do a lot of this research, even though most home buyers do. You can go out, you can look at houses, you can do that physically, you can do that virtually, you can get an idea of neighborhoods, you can get an idea of locations based on what you can afford. But finding a good realtor, someone that can help you through this process, especially if it's a first time, okay, is absolutely, in my opinion, a great way to go about this. Why? Well, the realtor, again, lives this, as I said, day to day. This is what they wake up in the morning and they do. So you want them involved. They can help you with neighborhoods. They can help you with prices. They can help you with negotiation. They can lead you to some resources that you might not have. A home inspector, a pest company, a closing, a title company. I mean, they're a handyman, maybe after you close and you have some different things to do. So a good realtor can be a tremendous resource whenever you're buying a house. So even though you might be able to do this on your own, hiring one as a buyer in this environment will not cost you anything. Up to now, the seller is still paying those listing commissions. That could change. That's a whole nother conversation. But having a good realtor on your team and a good lender, in my opinion, is essential when you're buying your first house. Now, that doesn't get us to the whole idea of is it a good time or not. All right. So what's going on? And some of you guys are having this conversation on the side here about what's going on, obviously, in our market, whether you're going to determine whether it's a good time or not. Number one, and write this, number one to think about, and I hope you're writing this down, is all markets are local, right? You got to focus on the market that you're looking to buy your first home on. If you live here and you're looking to buy a house in the Washington, D.C. metro area, you're not as concerned with what's going on in Colorado or Texas or Florida or Maine. You're focused on what's going on in the D.C. metro area as far as real estate prices go. Okay. All right. Let's read a few of these. You got to slow down, Russell. I can't keep up with you. Okay, Max said, yeah, but price elevation also means more homes under foreclosure, does it not? Homeowners could buy 400 home, different 800 more. PIT was about there. You're pointing my point that it's a terrible time. House prices have to come down and incomes have to go up dramatically. Purchase same house today with current interest rates. I see what you were saying for holding a home. Rates are tight and costs do. But if you're taking on investor interest, can get paid fast if you flip quick. Okay, Max, you're jumping ahead. Okay, comes into shared appreciation, mortgages, lower down payment. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, you guys are jumping ahead, and that's great. You're having that conversation, and people can read those comments and understand that. But so right now we're talking about a homeowner. We're not talking about an investor. We're going to get to that. You're building your team. So what's going on? Okay, so what's going on? First of all, let's talk about a checklist, and then we're going to answer this question. All right. So your checklist, right? Your checklist if you're looking to buy a house. Number one, have you saved for a down payment? How much money do you have set aside that you can put toward buying a house? Now, remember, if you built your team correctly, that lender is going to sit with you and they're going to talk to you about different loan programs and the requirements of each loan program. So in other words, is there a lower down payment FHA program, or are you a veteran and you might be able to get in with no money out of your pocket? Or are you going to go more conventional where you're going to avoid what they call private mortgage insurance and put 20% down? Is there, we'll talk about creative financing in a minute. Are there any grants in the area that can help you, maybe with closing costs or down payment assistance? Are you a teacher? Are you a first responder? There's programs for them. If you're a medical professional, my niece and nephew are both in medical school. They're in residency now. They live in Texas. They went to a loan officer and they got a tremendous program for medical professionals. Again, loan officers and lenders are looking at that going, okay, these two are educated. These two are on their way. Their incomes are going to increase. They can afford X amount based on their residency incomes, knowing that those incomes are only going to, in theory, rise over time. So there's different programs for different professions, and you got to weigh some of that. But number one, do you have the down payment money? Do you have anything set aside? Because that's going to dictate what you can afford. It's going to dictate the loan program you can qualify for. That's the number one thing on my checklist is do you have or what do you have in form of a down payment? We talked about credit. Maybe you want to order that credit on annualcreditreport.com. What is it? Do you need someone to help you interpret that? Do you need to work on getting that credit score up in order to qualify for maybe a better rate on a mortgage? So getting a good credit report, okay, is key. And another thing I would really contemplate, so credit report, down payment, this goes before any of the fun stuff of going and looking at houses and trying to find the right one that fits you and your family's needs. And something else I would ask myself is how long do I want to own a home? You know, we're having a conversation over in the right in the comments with Russell and Max. No one's even asked how long you're going to own a home. Folks, if this is your lifetime home, if you're thinking about owning a home for the next 10, 15, 20 years, okay, what's going to happen in 10, 15, 20 years? You don't know. And again, as you read these comments, and I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know. I promise you, they don't know either. They don't know the future. They can guess. It's easy to be negative, right? It's much easier to pull someone down from a chair than to pull someone up. Okay. So it's easy to be negative. You don't know. I mean, a lot of people thought when the pandemic hit that the world was going to end. Well, folks, we had the best 2.5 years of price appreciation that we've seen in a long, long time. Nobody knew that. Nobody understands the psyche of all these events that happen across the world. So don't always say, okay, it's always going to be end badly. You don't know. That's your best answer. You don't really know. So you have to look at on an individual basis to determine whether or not for you, it's a good time to buy a house. Is your credit good? Do you have the down payment money? Are you planning on owning this home for a long time? If some of those questions are, yes, my credit's good. Yes, I have a down payment. Yes, I'm looking to own a home for a reasonable, I would say more than 5 years, certainly probably at the minimum, if you plan on being in that house for at least 5 years. Okay. The answer for you might be yes. And it might be no. Still hard to know. We're still not there yet. Okay. But as you go through this process, you're going to find out. Now, what's going on? Okay. What's going on in the real estate market is very simple. Interest rates, as Russell pointed out, all right, went from 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4%, and they jumped dramatically. And they were sitting at 8% in the fall. And the fall market was very, very slow. Okay, very, very slow. And then they started creeping down a little bit. It seemed like inflation was coming down a little bit. It seemed like people were starting to see, hey, the Fed was going to cut rates this year, maybe 4 times, maybe 6 times. Again, the best in the world, the best economists in the world don't know. All right. I don't even know if the Fed knows. But the point is that rates started coming down. They started coming down in December. We saw an uptick. We saw the uptick in a few houses that we had that were a little bit slow. And as soon as those rates ticked down a little bit, we got more activity and we got some inventory moved out. So it is, it is, as Russell pointed out here on the side, if you read some of his math, it does make a difference. A $350,000 house, 20% down, which a lot of people don't have, but 20% down at a 7% mortgage, your principal and interest is going to be $1,861 a month. That doesn't count taxes. It doesn't count insurance. At 8%, that same mortgage is going to cost you $2,054. So that's a $192 difference. Okay. Now imagine, as Russell said, some people pointed out, at 3%, it's cut in half, right? That's a huge, huge difference. Now, to me, the difference between 7 and 8%, sometimes people look at this the wrong way. I look at, okay, it's $192. Not chump change. That's $2,000 a year. Over the life of the loan, that could be, I think, is like $68,000 to $75,000. It's a lot of money. Most people don't carry their loans all the way through, but sake of argument, that's a lot, $192. Now, I would look at that a little bit differently. Again, depending where I am in my career, depending on where we're in my life, I would look at that, okay, $192. How can I come up with $192 more a month? Is it taking a small second gig economy job? A lot of people are. Is it cutting out something? Is it maybe not taking a nice vacation as I might have? Maybe I don't take any vacation at all. Are you willing to make a sacrifice for that home? That is a personal decision. And that's why there's no right answer to this question. Is it a right time or a bad time to buy a house? Because it's an individual decision. Now, again, if I'm looking at this, okay, there's other ways to attack this as a homeowner, right? Maybe to soften this, and I'm here, if you analyze Case-Shiller Index, shows the wave of complete bubble. The bubble is higher than it was in 2006 by a wide margin. Stocks are in a bubble. Bonds are in a bubble. Bubble, 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 bubble. Well, that means Russell is going to sit on the sidelines and not do anything. And that's fine. And he might be right. He might be right. If any of you find rich man, poor man, Robert Kiyosaki, who I'm not a big fan of, I think he's a fraud personally. But, he's been yelling bubble for 10 years. Buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. Okay, great. But you've missed out on 10 years. So you have to be smart about it. Okay. Nope, you're wrong. Not sitting on the sidelines. Sorry. All right. But the point is that it just depends on your own personal situation. Now, the way to offset some of this, if you're a little bit nervous, okay, if you're looking to buy a home and you're nervous, okay, I'm going to give you some reasons to wait. All right. But these are also some things you can do. Maybe you buy a handyman special, meaning you buy a house that needs a little bit of work, not structural issues, but maybe there's some things in the house that you could do to live with as you save some more money and renovate that house and build equity over time. Okay. But if we had a price decrease, if we had a bubble, okay, as they came down, all right, maybe you'll still be okay because you bought that house right. I have a house in Cheverly that fits this exact scenario. It's worth about $480,000, $500,000. You could buy it from me today for $400,000. Now, does the house need a little bit of work? Yes. Not crazy work, cosmetic work, some painting. The floors are beautiful. They've been covered by carpet for years and years. The kitchen is very functional. The bathrooms are very functional. The furnace is relatively new. The hot water heater is relatively new. So you can do some of that work yourself if you're handy, or you can hire other people to do that over time. It's exactly how I bought my first house. It wasn't perfect. Now, if you're someone that wants the perfect exact house, move in, put the groceries on, this isn't a strategy for you. Okay. Maybe you buy a smaller house. Maybe you buy a starter home. I see so many people these days, they want their forever home as their first home. That's changed. Okay. As past generations bought a starter home, they lived in it for a little while and then they moved up. Maybe buy a starter home. And since you're on this Zoom meeting, you're obviously investor oriented. Okay. You could go ahead and keep that as a long-term rental. It's exactly what I did. I bought my first house. It was a townhouse. I had a roommate help pay the mortgage. When I was ready, I bought another one. I brought those roommates with me, rented the other one. And that's how I started my investment career, is I kind of moved along with buying houses and keeping them as long-term rentals. I still own that first house. I've done very, very well on it, and it does very well cash flow wise. You can buy a house and house hack. What exactly does that mean? That's what I did. I bought a house and I rented out rooms to my friends, and they helped pay the mortgage. Okay, you can still do that. You forget about a house. Maybe you find a small multifamily property that you can live in an apartment and rent out the others. There are not as many of those, certainly, as there are in the Midwest and different parts of the country in our area, but there are some. Okay, there'll be some. Um, Russell, 1 year from now, we'll know we're in a bubble. Okay. And if we're not, we're not. Again, Russell's the only person in human history that knows exactly what's going to happen. All the famed economists around the world, all the people on Wall Street, all the people that, quite honestly, are probably tuned in a little bit more than Russell, not to hurt your feelings, they have no clue, and you seem to have a clue. So I don't know. I don't know if I would take that to the bank. All right. That's just me. And I know I'm not hurting your feelings because you're always on the negative side on most of these things that we talk about. So that's some examples. Now, reasons to wait. Reasons to wait. Okay. In no particular order. Home values in area are dropping. Are home values in the Washington, D.C. area dropping now? I don't see them dropping. Maybe a little bit in DC, higher end homes, 1.3, 1.5, maybe coming down a little bit. I see no first time home buyer houses dropping on any level. I see them going up. See them going up again, basic supply and demand. Okay. And again, think of my first question. If you're thinking about buying a house as a home, not as an investment, as a home, somewhere to live, to raise a family, to, be there for 5, 7, 10 years. Do you really care if you can afford it? Do you really care really how much that house is worth? We all want our houses to go up in value, obviously. But if you bought today at 400 and a year from now is worth 350, but you were holding that house long term, do you really care? Does it matter? You can afford it. Probably shouldn't matter. Okay. Probably shouldn't matter. Is inventory increasing in the area that you have interest? So again, this is why all real estate is local. So you want to look in there. But let's say you're looking in a particular townhouse community in Germantown. You can ride around the neighborhood. You can ask your realtor, hey, what's inventory like? Is it increasing? And the point is, if you're seeing more and more houses come on the market, prices, in theory, will come down. There's more competition. Some people have to sell. The conditional matter more. All those things that matter about real estate pricing will come into effect. What's going on now, there's just no supply. And so there's enough homeowners out there looking that if a house comes on, it's priced well, it's in decent shape, you're going to get a good number for that house. Your personal life, okay? Your personal finances. I would wait if those areas need love, meaning you need to build your credit up. Do you need to save a little more for down payment? Are you just starting out in your career? Are you not sure you're going to be in Washington, D.C. for the next 5 years? What is your personal relationship if you're buying a house with somebody? Is your marriage solid? Is your partnership solid if you're moving in with somebody? You need to ask these tough questions. And if any of those are, it's a little bit, I wouldn't buy a house. I wouldn't buy a house. I would wait until you're in a better place financially, better place personally. Maybe your job is more steady. And again, something that Russell brings up kind of without saying it is, what if we go into a recession? Wonder if we, go into a recession and people, and they are in the tech business, they certainly are being laid off. Okay. What is your job perspective like? Meaning, if you lost your job tomorrow, could you replace that income? Okay. Now, I've never had some of these questions and issues because I've been self-employed my entire life. I've always relied on myself to make money and always felt I was confident I could. And if I could not make money, I suffered the consequences. I was willing to take those risks, but a lot of people are not. Okay. A lot of people are not. What the prices for multi-general homes like in the DMV, what the prices, I'm not sure what I understand that question, Magdalene, meaning multi-generation houses means that those houses are going to be for a long time. My dad owned his house for 50 years. He paid $50,000 for it and he sold it for 1.2 million. Took 50 years, but not too bad. I'm buying a house in Cheverly. The woman owned it since 1967. She paid $27,000 for it, and it's gone up more than $27,000. So if you own real estate in historical data, long term, and you got to determine what long term, it should do pretty well. Now, again, you can read anything you want. You can stick your head in the sand and say nothing is going to grow in value and the world's going to end. And folks, it might very well end. There might be somebody that's can push a button and the whole world's over. Well, it won't matter at that point. Okay. And I'm not saying real estate is the only way to build wealth. In fact, I'm telling my two boys this, as we speak. There's lots of different ways. The basic recipe for building wealth in this country is very, very simple. What is that? I'm sorry. It's basically spend less than you make and invest the rest. That's it. That's the only phrase you need to know. Spend less than you make and invest the rest. And invest means whatever is comfortable to you. Is it in the stock market? Long term. It's long term. Mutual funds, index funds. Is it a real estate investment trust? Is it a small rental house? Is it a multifamily property? Is it commercial property? But something you need to invest in. Now, as a long-term real estate investor, I've had investments for many, many, many years. Some have done better than others. I have a $220,000 property that's worth about $1.6 million now. I have a $425,000 property that I've owned for 20 years that's worth probably, maybe it doubled, maybe $750,000. Hadn't done as well. I have a commercial property that's tripled in value. So they don't all work. But if you own them long enough, in theory, they should grow in value and stay up with inflation, and you should be better off than you are without doing anything. I always tell you this example. When I love to travel and fly and get on planes. I love airports. I love hotels. But when I go up in the jet, every single time I look out the window, if I got a window seat, even in an aisle, I peek over. And when we're taking off, I always look down and I always see these row of houses. And I thought, if people just understood, if they owned 5 of those, they'd be a millionaire, probably a multimillionaire. In cities like certainly DC, New York, Houston, Miami, Chicago, you name it. You own 5 of those babies and you're a multimillionaire. That's all we got to do. It's not that hard to become wealthy in this country if you apply principles and you're dedicated to it over the long term. Okay. All right. So those are the reasons to wait. Home values are dropping. Inventory is increasing. Your personal life is a mess. You got to look at your profession. Okay. You got to look at your profession, and are you stable in that? Okay. Now let's read a little bit of Russell's commentary here. The jobs report is showing people are taking second and third jobs to keep up with the inflation that has not gone down. I agree. If you look at the new home market, it is in variance with existing homes. New home market is coming down. They are offering flexible interest rate programs. Yes, you can get a house. But it makes sense today. However, there is a hidden crisis with homeowners insurance, California. Yes, all those things are true. All those things are true. And we're not here to talk about insurance. We're not here to talk about some of those other things. But yes, inflation, insurance is going up because of inflation, because really that's a whole nother discussion, but it's really because of the labor component of if a house burned down or you need a lot of work, it's materials that have gone up, but also the labor, and labor has gone up, and it's made house flipping harder. And I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. So if you want the case for not buying a house, read Russell's commentary and go and shut the door and, don't do it. I'm telling you that it's very difficult for any one person to say you should buy a house, you should not buy a house. Personally, if I was ready to buy a house, meaning I'm at the point in my life where I'm ready to buy, and we're talking about a first home primarily. If I'm ready to buy a first home, okay, and I have some money saved for a down payment, or there's a program that I can get into a house with little or no money down. My credit is solid. I feel good about my profession, or I feel good about my prospects of earning money over the long term. I'm in a good place personally, meaning if I'm buying it with a partner, with my wife, with my husband, whoever that may be, that we're good personally, meaning our relationship is strong. And I'm looking at the purchase as a longer term proponent. This is not investing. We're not talking about a flip. We're going to get to that. I'm talking about a place to live. Okay. Place to live. If I'm looking at those things and I'm saying check, 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 and I'm ready, and I find a good lender and I find a good realtor and I'm patient, I look for the right deal, I think it's always a good time to buy real estate. I think it's always a good time. And again, as a personal home, I'm not as concerned, right, if my investment doesn't play out in the next year or 2 or 3 years. I'm not concerned about that. As long as it's a place I want to live, raise a family, or if I don't want a family, if I want to live there, it's a good time to buy a house. And I'll argue that till the end of time. You can look at all these things. But again, the check marks have to be in place. If any of those is out of balance and you're taking a little bit of a risk, maybe right now is not the best time to buy a house for you. Okay. Let's shift this over to investors. All right. Shift this over to investors. Now, it's a good time to buy a rental. It's a good time to buy a fix and flip. Good time to buy a commercial property. Is it a good time to wholesale real estate? Okay, let's focus first on rentals. All right, and we'll spend a little more time on that tonight. Okay, these are 6 factors. All right, 6 factors when you're looking for a rental, and this is across the board. All right, you're always looking for affordable housing stock. Really? Does that make sense? Okay, and again, if we're looking to buy a rental, we're not generally looking, we're not just saying Washington, D.C. metro. Okay, but there's still opportunities there. In fact, picked up a house, closed it. Renter's moving out, actually. House needs a little bit of work. It's down in Southern Maryland. Bought it for what did I buy it for? 135? 135? Gosh, I bought it 3 weeks ago. I don't remember. 135. House worth about 285. Okay, needs some work. 3 levels. It will rent for right around $1,800 to $1,900. All right. So I got a different strategy in this. I can fix it and flip it. I can fix it, a little less fixing, right? I could put a renter in it for a few years. That's in the DC, what I call DC metro area. All right. And it still works wonderfully as that. I'll have a little bit of equity in it. I'll have a good solid renter, have some good cash flow. Okay. So this is what you're looking for when you're looking for a good rental. It could be here or anywhere. And I'll give you a few markets to look at. But wage growth, meaning you want jobs, right? You want the wages to be going up. Now, again, with inflation, people's wages are going up a little bit. But you want a place where wages are increasing. You want jobs. You want markets that have jobs. Jobs. You don't want to be in areas that have no industry, nothing going on. Look for cities that have jobs. Population growth, because the jobs are going to attract people, right? So people want to come into places where there are jobs. All right. Property appreciation. In other words, properties are growing. Again, as a rental property owner, you want over time your property to increase in value. It doesn't have to go from 100 to 200 in a year, but you like to see a slow, steady rate of appreciation. The jobs, population growth, all that's going to contribute to that, some of that growth. And then what we call rental yield. In other words, you want to make sure that the rents support the value that you're buying the property. And folks, this is getting tougher. Many of you heard, been around the business of 1% rule. So your rent should be 1% of your acquisition. So in this little townhouse, if I'm in it for $180,000 after we renovate it, can I rent it for 1% of that, which is $1,800 a month? I can. Now, if I'm a little lower than that, I'll still do it. Because I said, it's getting a little harder to find those deals. But there are cities that you can still do that with. All right, let me give you some markets here. And again, you can research this. This is not secret. And these are, markets that can work with some of the 1% rule, some of the rental markets, and they have some of the things we talked about. Places in Texas come up quite a bit. You have your Houstons and Austins, big cities, expensive cities. I was surprised about Austin. Outer burbs of Dallas, Fort Worth, always been good for rentals. Some middle of the country markets like Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, down south, Atlanta, Charlotte, Orlando, Tampa, Midwest, Indianapolis, Providence. Some of those come up quite a bit. Now, Russell made a point over here. I want to just throw it out to you. Is insurance. And we're going to be talking about insurance. In fact, next month, we're going to have a professional, we're having professionals come on, be in the meeting. I'm going to have an insurance agent come on. It's supposed to be this month, had something come up, he couldn't be here. But I want him to talk about insurance, what's going on in that industry and how that's going to affect values, already is in the state of Florida. In fact, I would not want to be owning condos in the state of Florida or Colorado, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But insurance is going to have an effect in some of these markets. But again, those are just some of the markets that again, you might want to look. Now, what about let's see what Sid said. Keep in mind, we are investors first. At least I am. I have 4 rounds under contract right now and 2 more meeting this week. The business works. I've been doing this 30 years. Be smart. Yeah, Sid, exactly. Great advice. As investors, we're always looking for deals, right? We're always looking for opportunities. We're always looking for properties. This is totally different than if you're a first-time home buyer. I get that. But as investors, we're always looking for, if you're looking for long-term appreciation, long-term cash flow, you're always looking for opportunities for rentals. You're always, if you're in the fix and flip game, you're always looking for the next deal. Sid mentioned he has 4 moving and he has 2 more meetings. So he's churning deals, right? There's always opportunity. Now, again, like he said, be smart. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to be in the 1.2 to 1.4 range in DC right now. It's tough. Okay, with interest rates elevated, with buyer demand down a little bit low, with perceived crime, it just depends on the stats you always hear about. So you got to be smart where you're investing, and you got to make sure your numbers are your numbers are correct. Okay, now I got this going back. Believe the government shuts down, we have more problems. Okay, you guys are having your own separate conversation there. We'll go through some of that. Yeah, we're always looking for some of these. Okay, so. Let's see here. Where are we going here? Boom, 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 boom. All right. So, if you're an investor, you're always looking for the next opportunity, and there's always going to be more opportunities. And if the real estate market softens, as it is a little bit, as it weakens, there's not as many opportunities, you're always looking for the next deal. Okay. This is where people make a lot of money if they're smart. The commercial market, there's opportunities there. One of the downsides now, obviously, for longer term holds, if you will, for cash flow and so forth, rates have gone up. Rates have not gone for homeowners, they've gone up for investors. And it's harder to get money right now. But there's also creative ways you can do that. We don't have time to go through all those, but there's certainly, owner financing. You certainly could take mortgages subject to, you can go to the private market. There are ways to secure real estate now to hold it long term. If you're wholesaling real estate, obviously you don't need to have the capital, you need the knowledge. So again, what would I do if I'm looking to invest in real estate, right? What will we do? You have your investment checklist. You have the same things if you're buying a house, right? You're building that team, you're getting educated. But the number one thing you're doing is you're looking for what is your passion in real estate? What is your focus? And I've given out this book before. It's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's a great book. It's easy read. The One Thing by Gary Keller. It morphs down to that one thing you can really focus in on. It gets rid of a lot of the noise. So you're not trying to wholesale. You're not buying a rental, and you're not doing a fix and flip. You're not looking for commercial. Especially as you're new, you're focusing on your one passion, and you're building your team around that, because your team around you for a wholesale business is different from a fix and flip business. And a fix and flip business has some overlap, but it's a little different if you're running a rental business. So you got to figure out what you're going to do. Your note business, if you're buying and selling notes or holding notes for long term, that team is going to be a little bit different, same sort of folks, but it'll be a little different than if you focus on other things. So that's your first decision. Okay. And then as you build out your team and you go, that's when you're going to see some real results. All right, let's go through some of this back and forth with some of these guys. All right, Max, I believe the government shuts down, we have worse problems. Absolutely. Clearly. I spoke to national speaker, long-term landlord in Miami years ago. He was almost wiped out because he couldn't insure his rentals. Yes, insurance is an issue, especially in some high insurance states. Believe it or not, I'll let you guys, since you're kind of active on here, outside of Florida, what's another state you think is really expensive to get insurance in? It'll blow your mind. What's another state that's really tough to get insurance, homeowners insurance, where it's really, really expensive? Any guesses? Anybody throw out a guess? Not Florida. We all know that one. California, I'm sure. That's not what I'm thinking of. Keep going. Throw them out. No, Remax income from the, 1 million realtors have left the business in the past year. Yeah. Typically, real estate market, unlike stock market, it's not a sudden crash. DMV, top of the market, December 1989, 6 months later, 30% drop. It can happen here. Absolutely can happen here, Russell. Absolutely, it can happen here. And if it does, there'll be a time for us to circle the wagons and look to raise some capital and buy some real estate. What do you got? Sid, Texas, yes. Nevada, I think someone said. Louisiana, Corliss, you're right. Louisiana's one. The one I was thinking, Louisiana is for the reasons you can think of. Texas, same reasons. But the one right above Texas is Oklahoma. Believe it or not, Oklahoma. The average homeowner rate in Oklahoma is $4,700 a year. And again, what's shocking about that is the price of housing in Oklahoma is cheap. in relation to the country, but it's because of the tornadoes and the different things that go on in that state that the cost of homeowner insurance is very high. But you're right. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that. I would go grab The One Thing by Gary Keller if you want to have a good read. I would continue to be looking for opportunities. Now, let me use this little time here that we have. I try to stay on time for y'all. There's a lot of information to go over too in 30, 40 minutes. And thank you all for your comments. You guys going back and forth. You guys should share phone numbers and grab a cup of coffee and talk through some of it, because it's good to be knowledgeable, right? It's good to know the risk. It's good to understand all these things. But again, paralysis through analysis, if you get too caught up and too scared, you're never going to do anything. Now, Russell, you might not be in that boat, but people starting out, if they read all this and hear all this, it might scare them to death. And you don't have to be. You just need to be prepared. You have to understand your risk, and you have to go about it, as Sid said, in a very smart way. Now, folks, we have live WREIA meetings, and I know some of you know that. We finished up our live WREIA meetings last year, and we're starting up again in March 23rd. It's a Saturday. This is going to be every month, okay? This is made up of a group of approximately 24 people, team of 24, all right? And this is a great opportunity for you. I kind of look back and reflected and thought, the best networking that I had, the most effective for everyone, myself and everyone involved, was when we had a smaller group, when we could get to know each other, when we could understand what each of us wanted to accomplish. And we're going to challenge you to hopefully come up with that one thing, or we're going to challenge you to come up with something that you want to accomplish this year through our live WREIA meetings. We're not going to allow you just to sit in the back of the room, grab a cookie, and leave without talking to anybody. This is interactive. This is where we're really going to get to know each other and try to help each other through all our resources. Something as simple as you might need a referral for a plumber, or you might need a hard money lender, or you might need some resource that you might need, to helping people kind of go deeper, dive deeper, go more resources, more education, more access to really good investors. And I love the people that are signing up. And it makes me a little nervous because they're accomplished people. They're people that know what they're doing. And when you bring a collective like that together, and we sit down and we have time every single month, and we have time during the month to meet and talk, we can really get a lot done. And that's why we're doing this team of 24. Now, folks, this costs a small pittance compared to the talent in these rooms. It's $595. That's what we're asking for 6 meetings. Now, again, the talent in that room can pay for that many times over. A simple referral to a plumber, a simple referral to any trade these days can save you that kind of money. Is this face-to-face or virtual? Vanessa, this is our live meetings. We are together face-to-face. We go to some properties. We have some meetings in the conference room. We try to have the meetings focused around what people want based on our surveys at the beginning on what people are looking for. Okay. So this is for newer people and it's for experienced people. And we're going to base the meetings and the content and the networking based on the group as it changes the dynamic. And we got some great people signed up. We have some room. We like to fill it up. It's $595. The link is there. You'll see it come across the screen. You can call me personally if you have any questions about it. I'm excited about it. It's something I really, really enjoy, helping some people get to where they want to go, and then seeing just some of the things that go on. We had some videos that came out over the course of the last few days. You saw Gary, you saw Daniel Mashallah, some really, really great people. Dominic, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining. Dominic's a great investor. He's down in Southern Maryland, Prince George's County. He owns some rental property. He's been around the building industry. He's a builder. He built some houses. So again, those types of people are what we're about. You got some really good, talented folks, just not a bunch of people sitting around going, I want to wholesale my first property. We welcome you guys. We want you to come in. This is your opportunity to meet some really good folks that can help you get to where you want to go. And you can also help other people, help them get to where they want to go. So, feel free to join. Call me if you have a question. Email me if you have a question. We want to fill this thing up. You're going to be hearing more about it as we go along. But Team of 24, we're starting, I guess, in 3 or 4 weeks. March 23rd, we'll go every single month. We're working on the schedule now. and it should be a great meeting. And you just see, just from the simple conversation here with someone like Sid, I know Sid's going to be a part of it, and Russell. I mean, these folks have thought through a lot of this, and it's good to get differing opinions, and it's good to understand the risk, and it's good to understand the opportunities. And so you're sitting next to people that are doing things that are active, that can help you to get where you want to go. And so I hope you will be a part of that. Again, as we go through Washington WREIA, we're going to be doing these online meetings every month, starting our live meetings in March. Be a part of that. We're working on essential skills. We're talking about things that people have kind of given us feedback that they want to learn about. It's hard to do in 40 minutes. Okay, so if you have questions, if you have a deal you want to look at, if you are confused about where to start, feel free to email me. Feel free to pick up the phone, text me. Be happy to help you all out. I'm obviously still very active in the business, looking for deals myself, always partnerships, different things that we're doing. So let us know if we can help you out too. All right, Russell, we'll end here. If there's a government shutdown, I guarantee you definitely affect the DMV market. You will see layoffs because of people not paid back or contracts you have in place, government place. I agree. That's not rocket science. If we have a nuclear attack too, the real estate market's going to go down too as well. Markets can go up and they can go down. We've seen it in the past. I'm sure it'll happen in the future. But folks, if you're not in the game, if you never pull the trigger, if you never learn how to wholesale, if you never do a fix and flip, if you never own one rental property, when you take off in that jet and you're heading in for a vacation, you look down and you go, man, I wish I owned those 5 houses. I don't own any. You know, that's going to be the difference from the guy sitting next to you, turns to you and go, yeah, I own 6 of those townhouses. See those 6 down there? Yeah, they're worth $400 to $500 each. Yeah, about $3 million in real estate. That's pretty powerful. We'll end with Teddy Roosevelt. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. Very, very true. Very, very true. All right. I appreciate y'all joining me. Let me know if you have any questions about this. If you're looking to buy your first house and I can help you out, I'm more than happy to walk the process through with you. More than happy to help you with a realtor or a lender. More than happy to see if we can help you at all if you're looking to buy a first house or anything else. We're here to help you out. So again, thank you so much for joining me, Gary McKeithen. If you're watching this, I know you cheated and you went to the playoffs tonight. I hope you saw some great games, and thanks for helping us out. And we will see you back online in March and in person on March 23rd. So join up. And thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Hope you got a little bit out of this, and everyone can move forward to a really profitable springtime and get some deals and move forward with your real estate. And let's hope that Russell, our resident negative Nelly, is not correct, or he's not totally correct, and that we can all move along and make some money with our real estate. Thanks so much for joining me, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon. Take care.